Today we have on Gabriella. We love to see it. Little Gab and Gab in the lab. Better rhyme. Okay.
Gab and Gab.
We love it. She's a multi-clair mystic, a Reiki practitioner, and an astrologist. And this to me feels like not really a formal interview. It feels like I'm on like a COVID FaceTime like date where you're like, I've been stalking this person's Instagram and I want to get to know them because they seem so cool. So let me just shoot my shot. That's what this feels like right now. So I'm just super pumped, so excited. So yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. 2 Gabs, double the guidance.
I know, double the guidance. I love it. It's gonna be so hard to stay on track. So focus, Gabs. Okay, so for people that hear like a multi-clair mystic and they hear an astrologist, they're probably like, what really is that? What does that entail?
Yeah.
So can you just kind of explain like what a day in your life looks like as someone who does those things? Like what does an astrologist do and what is a multi-clair mystic?
Yeah. So multi-clair mystic means that I use multiple different sensory perceptions to receive guidance and downloads, intuitive messages from spirit. So yes, I can talk to dead people. That's probably like the number one common thing that like people like to ask me when I tell them I'm psychic or that I'm a mystic. It's just like it comes through like I can hear songs in my head that aren't playing, or I'll hear like I might also like see something in my mind's eye, which is basically your third eye, your pineal gland. Yeah. For those who know about chakras. There's a bunch of different ways that my guides, my spirit team kind of give me, I call them intuitive downloads. They're just messages. Some people might call them ideas, brainstorms, brain blasts, kind of same thing. And then I also, practice astrology. That's kind of something that I've been practicing my whole life. And I didn't realize until recently that I could make it a career. And because it is so, I feel like it has blown up in pop culture in the past couple of years. It felt like something like I want to be a part of that. So typically like a day to day for me looks like waking up, self-care routine. That's very critical. I start my morning every morning with prayer and meditation. And I like to say that prayer is when you're speaking to spirit, universe, God, whoever you might believe in, whatever you might believe in. And then meditation is letting the universe speak to you.
I love that. I love it.
Yeah. So it's just a way kind of, I kind of think about communication, right? Like you're communicating what you desire, and then also like you're allowing yourself to receive things from the universe, listening basically. So yeah, start my day like that. Then I breakfast, a little movement, like stretching, light stretching, and then sometimes throughout the day I'll either have a workout class planned, depending. It might be Pilates, yoga, sometimes it's working out. Gotta get that mindful movement in. And then I'll have maybe 1 or 2 clients per day. I also, like I was telling you before we jumped on, I work at a fitness studio, so I share my time doing that. But I will say adding movement to my practice, my spiritual practice, has done wonders for grounding and like just like deeper healing. And that is somatics is something that I've been super interested in lately.
Yeah. So I know you said you've been practicing astrology your whole life. Does your family have a history of this, or were you kind of the first one that was like, oh shit, there's so much out there?
It's so interesting that you say that, because growing up, like my grandparents used to get me like zodiac keychains and trinkets, and I don't even think they like really necessarily, live by astrology. But I'm half Filipino, so Asian culture, we celebrate, the Chinese New Year, which is kind of rooted in Chinese zodiac beliefs, which is very interesting. And then on my mom's side, which is the Spanish side, like growing up, we would always read our zodiac signs together on like yahoo.com or like on the back of the newspaper. So I wouldn't say like I learned any of these practices necessarily from family, but has always been something there that I felt, it's like little breadcrumbs for my spirit, team to bring me to where I am now.
Yeah. So if you have a client, what would a session look like? I've never gone to an astrologer before. I definitely dabble in the astrology world, but I'm definitely not someone who can read someone's chart, kind of understand it. So what would a session with you even look like? Like what do you do?
Yeah. So how I infuse astrology into my practice, essentially for clients, I'm very rooted in family healing, ancestral healing, because I do feel scientifically there's a lot of facts, science that proves that 2 generations before us lives within us. So I focus very heavily on a lot of family healing, and how I kind of incorporate that within astrology is understanding a client's birth chart, and then maybe speaking to them a little bit more about placements of their families, right? If their mom is a Gemini, for instance, my mom's a Gemini, I have a Gemini rising. And so I like to look at similarities there in terms of astrology for family. And then there's, the classic, what's going on in the cosmos, in the universe, how you can kind of navigate that, what energies, whether it's feminine, masculine, whether it's cardinal, fixed, or mutable, all of these different modalities within astrology, I like to use very intuitively because I feel, spirit during a session will always guide me to what needs to be said.
I love that. You're such an intuitive little cutie. I love this. I just want to I can't. I'm slight fangirling right now too. It's not. So I think one of the things around astrology right now is fear in a way. Like people may read their horoscope and they're like, oh shit, it said I'm gonna get broken up with. So now I'm gonna have to break up with them because my horoscope said this. So how do you personally think that we can use our birth charts and astrology and everything like that to help us and guide us in a more preventative way versus using it to be anxious and fearful?
Totally. So I think part of the application of astrology is what I've tried to put more of an emphasis on. So it's sometimes people will be they might identify as a Virgo, right? And let's say said Virgo doesn't like Pisces, right? And they're oh, well, I'm feeling some type of way, all Pisces this, all Pisces that. Well, what they don't realize is that Pisces is actually the shadow of Virgo. And so everything is a mirror in this world. And so when we tend to say oh, I don't like this sign, or we're rooted in fear for something because of a sign, it's actually mirroring something to us. So I like to tell my clients, always citing your sources, taking that with a grain of salt as well. No one's guidance is going to be above your own highest self's, guidance. It's so funny you say this, because I had a coworker literally say to me, he was like, why does my co-star say I'm not going to be doing well in love and relationships? And I'm like, oh, I know why, because you're a Cancer, and Cancer's in Mars right now. So it creates a tricky imbalance in the energy, but it's all about having the tools to navigate it, right? I feel taking it with a grain of salt is always knowing how your body feels when it hears the guidance or receives the guidance is key.
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. And I think it's when we educate ourselves, it's less fearful. If you understand that, the Cancer is going to be having trouble in love because of Mars, you're like, oh, that's why it's a generalization right now. Just because of what's happening in the universe. It doesn't mean me specifically, I'm going to have trouble. It means that a Cancer probably is just going to have a little bit of rockiness, and that's it. And I think it's just once we educate ourselves, the fear kind of shies away. And
totally.
I think I should have asked this question in the beginning, but I mean, I know what a birth chart is, but for people that are listening that don't know, what a birth chart really is?
So a birth chart, essentially, also known as your natal chart, it's a unique group of placements, planets, houses that display what the universe looked like at the time and place, so longitude and latitude of your birth. So typically your sun sign talks about the day you were born. The time you were born has to do with your rising, and the placement has to do with your moon sign. So the birth chart, there's many different aspects to it. It's really interesting because sometimes people might say, oh, well, I'm a sun, moon, rising, and I have these signs. But actually, the birth chart is a full 12 sign zodiac wheel, and we all incorporate all 12 energies. So it's interesting, going back to the question you had just asked, like when we are fearful sometimes of horoscopes, we don't realize like we're fearful because this piece of it is part of a bigger puzzle. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also speaks a lot to maybe like the human experience. We are so individual when we're, in our vessel, but then when we think of connecting greater, we are just one big collective.
Mm-hmm. You're so good. So what is like how would you kind of, maybe there's like a metaphor out there for houses, because I have my natal chart and I have the picture and it's like, this is in my 12th house or something. And
totally.
A very long time ago, before I even knew all of this, I had like, I went to the library. It's like when people went to the library and shit. I went to the library and I got an astrology book, and I was like reading, I guess I was like kind of mapping out what, like, I don't know how to explain it, like what signs were in which house and everything for myself. And I was writing down what that meant for me. And a lot of it does seem very relevant. Like one of them, no idea what house or sign, but one of them said that I would have difficulties in travel. And there's always like something funny happening during travel. It's not always like this big disaster, but it's always something funny. At least I see it as funny because I'm prepared for it now.
Yeah.
So do you have a way to explain houses and what that kind of means when you break down, a natal chart?
Yeah. So houses basically are, I would say houses and themes kind of go together. So each house has a different theme. So your first house, essentially your rising sign or your ascendant, talks about your personality. Doesn't matter what sign it's in, right? But the first house always talks about your personality. Your 10th house, which is your midhaven in a birth chart, it looks like in MC. Your 10th house has to do with career, and it has to do with your status, how you make money, wealth. All of these houses typically are ruled by one sign, but because we are also unique and individual, we have different kind of configurations. It's almost like what I'm seeing right now is like a lock, and you have to kind of like get the combo in the right way to open it up. That's exactly kind of what a birth chart is like. It's like your specific placements, and it's probably likely that no, two people have the same placements, degrees, because it gets real specific, like the degree, the deacons, all of that. But yeah, they're all unique to you. And so houses are probably, I would say, the best way to describe them are the themes of certain aspects of your life.
Yeah, I think that explains it so much better, because in my head, I'm like, I have this in this house at this degree with this planet, and it gets a lot. But once you break it down into like everyday terms, it's a lot easier to process and make sense of. Like the first time I remember I put in my information and got the picture of my birth chart, I was like, okay, so I have it. I don't know how to read this. I have no idea where to go from here.
There's so many lines and angles.
Yeah, and this was so long ago. So it was before CoStar and everything. So that's when I went and I got an actual book, and I'm like, okay, let's decode this and try to figure out what's going on.
What is your big three? I'm curious.
So I'm a Libra, my rising is a Sagittarius, and my moon is Aries.
Oh my God. So you got that fire. Oh my God. You're in your rising season since it's Aries season.
Oh
my God.
That's exciting. Wait, what's your big three?
Yeah, my big three is Scorpio sun, Cancer moon, and a Gemini rising.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I got some, and I will say I have a Sag stellium. Basically, what that means, a stellium, you have 3 or more placements in the same sign. So my Mars, Venus, and my Jupiter are all in Sagittarius. So
Oh, wow.
Sagittarius is like a natural learner, like someone who's a wisdom seeker. And so
Mhm.
that really resonates with your moon sign and a lot of my placements.
I was gonna say that's why we're matching up.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something about so many are in Libra for me. And
Yeah,
I know that
Libras.
Libra is ruled by Venus, and my Venus is in Libra, if that makes sense. I don't know if I said that all right. But I'm like, that's why I'm like a mush ball. Like it all makes sense.
Libras are lovers.
Oh, we are. to a good thing and kind of a default, but we're lovers. We love to love. We love to see love. We love to experience love on every level.
Yes.
So that's
Beauty,
who we are.
romance. Yes.
I love it. See, I love it. I'm always saying I love it because but that's okay.
Like a true Libra.
Yeah. If you could debunk any misconceptions in the astrology world, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good question. If I could debunk, okay. I don't know if this is quite like something that I'm debunking, but I will say I think that everyone has the ability to be compatible. I don't think that there are signs that are not compatible. There might be signs that are maybe more compatible because they have elements or modes that are similar. But I feel like to say, what are the signs that are not compatible? And like, it's very, yeah.
I feel that. I've definitely had connections with, I took my way around the astrological world, Like I think if I click with someone, I click with someone and it's not like, oh, that's why, because you're
a certain
person. Yeah. Honestly though, with Tauruses, we just get on. But besides
I love that you said that.
Why?
Because Taurus and Libra are both ruled by Venus.
Oh,
so like
that's why.
This like feeling of like, oh, you're on my vibe of like beauty, love, like
yes,
curating just like amazing experiences.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense. But I do get on with like every sign. I'm not like, ew, this sign or ew, someone else. So I do like that because I'm sure people, at least me in 8th grade, I was like searching in. I was like, who am I compatible with? Because I need to go talk to this person. And I'm like, my crush isn't like, I don't know who I'm compatible with. I think it's like Gemini or something. I'm like, no, they're not Gemini. It's not gonna work. I might as well give up because we're just not meant to be.
Right, like Stylecaster said.
Yeah, exactly. Exposing ourselves right now, but that's literally what I used to do. So I love that you debunked that because I'm sure so many people kind of like second guess it,
Totally.
Like, am I really compatible? Like a small part of you and your subconscious might be a little more timid to get into something. I think that's something we need to separate ourselves from a little bit of letting the outside noise be a controller of what's going on inside. Like if everything feels good inside, then we don't need to hear the outside noise. We could just keep going with the flow and going with what we are drawn to. The outside world doesn't know what's happening here. We can leave it out there.
Exactly. And it's all in here because when we like what's in here outside, we'll like what's outside.
Heck yeah. I had this conversation like 2 days ago, how I could have the same 2 days. And one day I'm feeling really good inside and I have a great day. And I could have the same exact day the next day, but I'm feeling not well inside. And I'm going to be like, I had a terrible day. Like the same things happened, but it's all about what's happening inside that changes the trajectory of what we're experiencing externally.
Yes, it's so true. And we don't realize like that so much of the beliefs and perceptions we keep in here are informing our reality. So when people say like you're a creator, you're manifesting, it's like we're doing that through thought.
Yeah. And manifesting doesn't always have to be like future stuff too. It's like manifesting like what is happening because of the way that we're perceiving the world. Like we're manifesting this moment right here, depending on how we're perceiving it and depending on the stories we're telling ourselves about it. It could be a really good thing that we're experiencing, but if we're perceiving it through the lens of distaste, then it's not good. And then we just created that moment for ourselves.
It's
the
so
moment was
true.
going to happen regardless. It's just how we're experiencing it that kind of changes it.
Oof, that hit.
Good. I like it. So I want to jump into like the clair aspect. So I don't know, would you call yourself clairvoyant? Would that be, are you?
Yeah, I would say I'm clairvoyant, clairaudient, claircognizant. All of those are like sensing, knowing, hearing. Sometimes it's clairsentient, which is like you can smell things. My mom has that a lot. She'll like smell random things. I'm like, no, mom, I don't smell any of that. But all of that is like your heightened sensory. And it's basically like your internal system alerting you of something.
Yeah. I was going to ask you which one you felt like most aligned with. Do you have one that you feel more just like a parent in your day-to-day life?
Yeah. And I feel like it's claircognizant, which is like just that inner knowing. And it's sometimes that's hard to like, because there's no proof. It's just a feeling. It's just a knowing and inner guidance that I have spent my whole life, my whole 27 years trying to understand what this compass, how it speaks to me, what its language is, you know, what are its notifications, all of these things. And I feel like that one's the strongest one. That one's the one that comes through the most. But I do feel when I am channeling other people's guides, it's clairaudient. Like certain guides that I connect with, they love music, which I love because I'm like, yes, I love music. But I would say those two are probably the biggest.
Wow. So with having like an inner knowing, how do you navigate when you're trying to explain something to someone and it's hard for people that don't experience this to just blindly, I guess, understand and follow and be like, oh, I respect that. How do you personally deal with when you're going about a situation just because you know inside what's happening and other people don't? Like, how do you deal with that? Because I find that challenging sometimes.
That was such a challenge when I first started my business in 2020. And I feel like that's kind of like the biggest lesson of my whole life. Just like being able to trust my intuition regardless of what everyone else says. And I feel like there are certain signs that I've been able to really cue in on, like my body, my palms will get very sweaty. There are certain things that like I'll just feel or I'll just know, or because it comes to me, it's almost like a story will just come to my brain. I'm like, I don't know where I got this. It just came to me and I'm just letting you know. I think that clients that I have been working with, it's been a slow journey of them unfolding and trusting, which I think is a beautiful thing because it's kind of like any relationship, right? Like whether it's friends or romantic, because I'm really seeing these people and I'm really holding space for them, which is vulnerable and it's intimate in a way that I feel like society doesn't really allow us to experience. So it's just, you know, being patient with them, but also honoring my boundaries of like, just because this might be something that is not coming up for you right now, doesn't mean you can't hold space for it to maybe come up later. And most of the time, that is what happens. So much of like my psychic intuitive gifts have a lot to do with predicting things. And so I always tell my clients before we head into a session, like hold space for, you know, some of the wisdom that might come through. Maybe it's not for you right now, but it could be meant for you in a couple of weeks, or maybe even after we get off Brain Blast, you know, and most of the time that is what ends up happening.
I feel that when I do Reiki, I'll have experiences where I'm like, I don't know where this is coming from. Take this with a grain of salt, but also like listen. Because I'm going to share something that may be a little uncomfortable. Because there's like an obligation in a way to like share if they want it. You know, like
Yeah.
when people are in that space and they want it inside, but on the outside they're kind of scared. You're like, I know that what's right is to share what's coming through
Yes.
for you.
It feels coy. The energy feels coy. It's like, I want to say this, but I know, like, I'm not sure how you'll perceive this, but I know that
Yes.
I need to say it.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So I'm always like, it's doing the like undermining thing, like when you text your friend like really good advice and you're like, but I don't know. Like, I don't know anything.
Right. But like, it's fine. It's fine.
But like, it's fine if you don't take any of my advice, but like, it's cool. That's sometimes how I feel with my Reiki clients. I'll be like, so like, this is coming up. Don't know where it came from, but I'm just going to like drop it. I'm going to put it down. You can pick it up. You can pick it up today, in a month, in a year. You're going to pick it up eventually. Right. That's at your own pace. That's at your own time.
It's true, because I also find that it's interesting in the earlier days of like starting this business and doing one-on-one readings. I definitely was undercharging for like the services that I was giving. And I was attracting a lot of people who it's like they wanted to believe, but when they got in the session, in order to feel safe, the walls went up. And it was like, oh, like then the session would start to feel like I'm proving myself. And that's like when it starts to get in that space, I had to pause and reset and kind of recalibrate and ask them again, like, what's your intention in this space? Because I'm obviously here to help you, but sometimes people, again, it's a vulnerable space. And if they have being seen by someone, like truly being seen, especially if you've not really had that opportunity, is like scary. And so I think like whenever it does get to a place where I start to feel that my services or my gifts are being questioned and I can feel it, I'll stop the session and just reset the space. Like, what's the intention?
That is really good advice. I feel like that's like the advice that I needed in this moment, because that's something that I've been feeling just across so many boards of people want to do it because they want to experience what you're saying you could do. Like they want you to prove yourself. And it's not fun being in a space where you feel like you have to prove yourself. Even with something like Reiki, people are like, well, I didn't feel anything. I'm like, but it was still like I did. Like I felt it, and I know that it was flowing through me, and a lot came up for you because it was happening. And it's like they want to debunk you. They want to prove like that the holistic and the alternative and the energy, that it's fake. Then why are you doing it? Like, why are you here then? Like, because I take that, like, I take it very seriously. It's what I love to do. It takes a lot from me energetically to do it. And when people are just laying down questioning it versus surrendering to the experience, it's like a tad bit hurtful. It just hurts your feelings because you're like, I'm not here. Like, I'm here to help you. Like, I'm here to be alongside you. I'm here to, you know, be a holder of energy for you. And I'm doing this out of the kindness of my heart because I care and I was called to do it. I'm not doing it for you to nitpick and question my value. It's hurtful.
Totally. Yeah, no, it's interesting because I also think in this space, the digital space that we, you know, play on Instagram, it's so easy. And I've been seeing this a lot for like the spiritual quote unquote truth to get lost. And I think that there's a lot of people that can see us posting and, you know, for the lack of it, we are thriving. I like to think because we are in this space, like we have to take care of ourselves, which means we have to show up for ourselves. And when we show up for ourselves, we feel good about ourselves. And when we share that online, I think people think that there's an instant satisfaction or an instant gratification that will happen after doing a session or receiving Reiki. It's like, this was the portal for you to open to be able to say, like, I'm going to step into my healing to start doing the work. And then realizing that like doing the work is a non-linear journey. Right. And it's like, I think that's another thing that people miss sometimes when they come in for these sessions. It's like, I'm not healing you. Like, you're not like completely healed. And also I identify as a healer, but like, I am showing you, I'm mirroring you, your own healing powers that you have innately within you.
Yes.
So yeah, I think a lot of that also is sometimes comes up to play for people who, you know, have maybe the intention, they mean well, but then they start to, you know, go into that limiting belief energy in the middle of the session.
Yeah, and I wonder, a part of me while you were saying that was thinking, I wonder if it stems from the way medicine is used here. Like it's a quick instant fix. So when people come to a holistic treatment, they're like, oh, it's not better. Like you didn't fix me. It's like that wasn't what I was here to do. I was here to be like a guide and an assistant and just like a friend. And you know, I'm here to help in the way that I can, and that takes a lot longer. I think holistic treatments get pushed to the side, whatever holistic treatment it is, because it does take a lot longer to get the benefits. But we're so used to, especially in America, the instant gratification for literally everything, but especially for medical stuff. Oh, you're feeling pain, here's painkillers, and then it's gone, and you're like, oh, I'm fixed. But with holistic healing, I'm not going to fix your pain right away because that's not the root of the problem anyway. I'm not here to fix the pain. I'm here to fix the problem. I'm here to help you fix your problem. I'm not even here to fix your problem. I'm here to assist you in doing it.
Right.
And that's where I think the mismatch. Yeah, I think that's sometimes where the mismatch comes in because they're like people, and it's no one's fault. Like it's not the client's fault, but it's just how we're programmed for the quick fix, and we want to feel better right now. And if it takes more than a month, then we don't want to do it.
Yeah, it's true. And I also think about like us in like a healing role. Like I often think of like healers as like we're kind of like mother figures in society. And so when, you know, so a client might start to, you know, get upset about they're not feeling the Reiki, or they're not healed right away. It reminds me of when I was little and like we're at the checkout counter and I want like a stick of gum and my mom's like, no, and I can't have it. So I throw a fit. And I'm like, damn, my mom was just trying to like buy me food and take care of me and love me. And here I am in the grocery aisle, like throwing a fit because I can't get candy.
Yeah. I love that. So, that's a good one because that is so true. We're just here we have the best interest. It's going to take a while for people to understand it if they stick with it. And I hope that people do choose to stick with it, even if they use different modalities in between, still experience it to the fullest. I always recommend people like 3 to 4 Reiki sessions, because the first one you might still be in the skeptical space. Or you may not even be ready to receive it. You're still sitting there like one eye open a little bit, like what is actually happening? What are you doing? So I think after like 3 to 4, you're like really feeling it. Like by the 4th time, you're a little more comfortable with being in that space, the experience. You could feel the benefits or just feel the actual true experience of it. Yeah. I don't know.
I love that. Yeah. Gives people time to like ease into their presence. And that like, that's like another kind of sign right there that like the world needs more meditation because we can't like sit and be present. We're like in our head, like, is it happening? Did she start yet? Like all these questions. And you can't even like relax into the now. Like, and just be. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. I wanted to ask you another thing about like the clairs and all that. So how do you think like a day in your life is different from someone else who hasn't tapped into that world yet? Like how is an average day in your mind with your thoughts, with these feelings, how would it be different?
So I've definitely seen the spectrum of like what life used to feel like when I didn't acknowledge these gifts. It was so overwhelming. And I would say I lived in a lot of negative thought patterns, and I just thought that was normal. Now I think a normal day for me, I'm much more intentional with my energy. I'm much more aware. And at first in like my awakening process, it was almost like felt like a burden to be so aware in a world that like Not many people are very mindful of, you know, their language or their actions or how their energy is affecting other people. Or maybe they're not aware that they're taking a lot and not, you know, giving back. So it was very overwhelming. But I think now that I've understood my gifts, how it speaks to me, my, you know, incorporating a somatic practice into my spiritual practices, I'm much more intentional, much more grounded. I will say I live in New York City, so the energy here is big. And I will like get on the subway, and like if I don't ground myself before leaving my house, I will definitely feel guides coming through, and it feels like if I'm an antenna, it's like I'm getting interference from my own. It's like I'm tapped into my own channel, I'm listening to my own channel, but then someone's trying to tune the channel out and I'm getting different frequencies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, bro, I'm trying to listen to my inner guidance.
Like, not now, not now.
Yeah, but I think before it was a little bit more like it felt like a task to be so aware and mindful. But I think now that I've gotten to this level of mastery with like my gifts and my emotional intelligence, I feel it's almost like flicking flies almost. It's like I get to decide, I get to choose where I place my energy, what I give my attention to, what I put my focus on, because at the end of the day, that is my currency. My energy is my currency. And so what I'm focusing on, giving my attention to, that is my currency. And I feel way more empowered. And that's why I think I want everyone to feel this way.
Hell yeah. I was going to say, listening to that, I felt your power. I felt empowered listening to you talk about it. Ooh. Hell yeah. You're so awesome. This conversation has just made me feel just like the past few weeks have just been a little heavier than usual. And this conversation just kind of, when you were talking, I heard or I guess like I saw and I felt myself being in this space because I've been letting like my mind go towards things that I don't want it to go towards. And I'm like not wasting, but spending my time on things that don't deserve my energy. Totally. And when you were talking, I heard myself feeling the emotions of like getting wrapped up in the spiral of negative thoughts and being like, do I want to put my energy towards this? No? Okay, then stop. Yes. And it felt so much more simple in my mind in that moment. So from here on, that's going to be a practice that I take with me. Do I want to put my energy towards this because my energy is sacred? No, I don't. Okay. No. That's it. Thank you. Next. Yeah, thank you. Absolutely not. Thank you. Next. On to the next. Let's think about something nice and beautiful that's deserving of my energy. Amen. You're a refreshing human to be around. Yeah. Let me tell you, I appreciate it so much. I appreciate you. I'm glad I'm able to there's so much that's just coming out and I'm like, I love it. I love it. When did you have your first, I guess, I don't know, did you always feel like you were like this, or did you have a spiritual awakening? When did you kind of come into consciousness and be like, oh shit, this is the real world? Yeah, this is my reality. Yeah. So I would say my first intuitive prediction happened when I was 4 years old. Wow. So I'd always realized I didn't have that. I thought that was normal for people. Growing up, I would pretend that I was acting, but I was really just speaking to my guides. And my dad used to come into my room and be like, who are you speaking to? I was like, oh, I'm acting. Oh my gosh. I don't think I realized that all of that was my intuitive gifts. Yeah. Then I think, you know how they say your spiritual awakening always starts with this kind of breakdown, this deterioration of the old self. I think the very start of that was when I graduated college in 2017. And I felt like my whole life I had been prepping to graduate from college. And then it was here. And then I'm like, okay, well, what's the point of life? I did it, right? And I felt
very much up. I came up against that whole like, okay, well, you check the boxes. Well, then like, what is life after you check boxes? So that
Yeah.
I think was like the like very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the pandemic went down, that's when things just kind of full vortex came online. Like I could not dispute it. I really thought for a while that I was like, something was wrong, because I was like, I'm hearing things, and I'm like
Mm-hmm.
predicting things I'm manifesting things like quantum leaping. And then I finally started reading tarot cards. My boyfriend was like, maybe you just want to do some like self-reflection. I was like, yeah, I would love to reflect. And then all of a sudden I realized like I'm speaking to ancestors. Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's interesting, like culturally, it was at the height of the Black Lives Matter movement.
Mm-hmm.
And then also when the Stop Asian Hate, like around that time,
Yeah.
that's when I feel my gifts kicked in the most. And I was just like, I honestly came into this career, this industry, like through collective grief. I felt so heavy, this
Give me
grief.
chills.
Yeah. And it was like, I didn't know how to shake it. I didn't know if it was mine. I didn't know I was feeling all these things. But I think like in that moment, for me, I was like, okay, well, the way that I'm going to fix the world is by fixing myself first. So I asked myself, like, okay, what are the unconscious bias that I still have that are like affecting how I show up in the world? And then from there, it just kind of like, it was Pandora's box. I'm like speaking to ancestors. I'm like channeling like my friend's grandma.
Yeah.
And from there, it was just like, all right, you're going to do it.
I feel like once you start like chipping away at that little box that we were put in for all those years, and you're like, what is actually on this other side? You're in like Narnia. Like you tap away, and the second it cracks a little bit, you're like, holy shit. What is behind the curtain? What is happening? And it's such a beautiful experience. And that's when I felt it too, is during the pandemic. I was just like finally sitting and being, and not distracted with everything that was happening on the outside. And I finally was looking inward and taking time to actually feel, and not feel the mindless, stressful experiences. I was feeling my true self. I was listening to my younger self. I was feeling my highest self. I was just crying. So I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I don't know what's actually happening. And it ended up being like the best experience of my life, of just being with myself. And definitely like once I broke through that wall, it was a whole new world that I'm so grateful to see and so grateful to be a part of. And it's so interesting looking back, like, because it's not like, I mean, maybe some people from a very young age are just kind of conscious, but I definitely lived a chunk of my life unconscious, just like kind of floating and going around and doing my daily life, the task, doing the checklist, checking boxes. And then I stopped checking the boxes. So it's really weird, but I really like it here. And I like to have this just awareness of what's going on. It's just a beautiful space to be in, and so many connections, so many soul connections that I've created. And I'm like, it's just a gift. It's something to be really grateful for.
Yeah, they say like part of the experience. So I'm like, a lot of my practice also is rooted in shamanism. And they say like one of the initiations through shamanism is like calling in your soul family. And so you might have not even taken the traditional shaman path, but you have this wisdom that is innate within you. And like calling in your soul family just like supports the fact that you do have this wisdom within you.
Thank you. You're so beautiful. So since it's coming to a wrap, sadly, but I'm for sure going to talk to you again. So I'm not that sad. I know we're going to keep chatting. Don't worry. But the question that I ask everyone that comes on is, if you were in the room full of the entire world and you had something to say to them, they were all listening, all very attentive, what would you say?
Oh my God. Okay, this is interesting because I commented this on my most recent Instagram where I was like, comment an affirmation you need to hear. And I saw you posted a bunch and I'm like, oh, I loved those. But I'll give a little context. I think that we live in such like a patriarchal society, and oftentimes the theme, right? Like the theme of time is such a masculine energy. And so in order to combat this like productive society that we live in, I think I would tell everyone in the world, you are always on time. You are always on time. Yeah.
I love it. Short, sweet, to the point, and makes you think.
Yeah.
You are always on time.
You
are always on time.
Yeah, because it's
really
just, it's like, that's divine timing, baby. Like that's the universe, and you're on time.
That's divine timing, baby. That's showbiz, baby. That's divine timing, baby. Hell yeah, it is. It's so awesome. You have been such a treat to talk to. You lifted my spirit up. And from coming from a little bit of the heaviness the past bit and just feeling this wave of lightness is so comforting. And a giant reminder. And it feels like I'm in like a warm hug with you right now.
Good. I hope you're feeling a hug. I'm sending you one.
You are so sweet. So where can everyone find you? Where can they learn about all this cool stuff and find your awesome postings?
Yes. So I am on Instagram at GDintuitive. And I also am on Substack where I write weekly horoscopes. That is substack.com/GDintuitive. But you can find all the links to my services on my Instagram page, link in bio. And yeah, that's, coming soon. I hope to do maybe a YouTube channel or maybe even a podcast. This definitely inspired me, but slow and steady.
You have such a good personality, I think, for like a YouTube channel, because you have the bright smile, the glowing face. You have like just like this energy of like, and it's beautiful. And I think you would do really good at that because you're just someone that you want to like watch, and be around. And
I love that.
I see that for you.
I'm manifesting it now. I'm gonna
manifest
that
whatever's
energy.
meant to you will be yours, and whatever's not, it's okay. So
let it go.
I'm sending you off with so much flipping love and just so much admiration. You taught me so much about, the houses and all that. So I'm sure my listeners are really going to enjoy this because I know I did. You are so yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Gab. I had so much fun.
Soon.
I'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye.